Hello friends, it's Kayla, and May is over. It's been over for a while. It's taken me like a week to find the motivation to film. I feel like everyone I know is in a reading slump or a video slump or a video watching slump. Like, I haven't been consuming much booktube. I haven't felt motivated to make any content, and I feel like I've been waiting until I felt like I could have like broader conversations about all of these books, but I've come to the conclusion that that's never gonna happen. So I'm just gonna tell you my ratings and probably reiterate everything I've already said in videos. So if you're one of the few, I feel like, who has clicked this, I appreciate you a lot. And I'm sorry I'm not giving you a lot of energy or a lot of anything. But I'm gonna go in order of when, I think, yeah, when I read these books. There's 11 of them. Quite a few of them were rereads. I reread a whole book that I wasn't even planning on. We'll start with the anthologies I read, though technically I read these throughout the entire month. I did start them the earliest in the month. So one of them is Love After the End. Actually, this is the reason that I read this. So this is an anthology of two-spirit and indigiqueer speculative fiction edited by Joshua Whitehead. And I read this throughout the month, and then nearing the end of the month, I realized that some of the stories were like kind of sequels from this one, which was very cool. And it made me want to reread this, which is one of my like top 5 favorite anthologies of all time. It's called Love Beyond Body, Space, and Time, an Indigenous LGBT sci-fi anthology. And I think this one was like, I think it is technically like the sequel. It's from a different publisher. This publisher is not in business anymore. You don't care. I realized they were from some authors that I've read from before, and then I was like, wait a minute, these characters seem familiar. So I went back in this, and one of the fun realizations was, oh my god, I'm all over the place. Did I even explain what these are? The title kind of explains it. I don't know. I just want to read the entire introduction in here because it's so well written and explains like the goal behind the anthology and everything, and touches on something that is frequently touched upon by Indigenous writers in regards to like the idea of apocalyptic fiction and dystopian fiction, is that like this group of people has already experienced apocalypse, and especially in this introduction it touches directly on that, and it was like, who decides like what an apocalypse means, and that they in some ways are living in a dystopian world. But then there was also a reference to the idea that they wanted this collection to be more utopian, like hope-filled stories. Anyway, it was amazing. I'm giving it 4.5 stars. And then I reread this one, which still remains a favorite, and it was 5 stars. And it's funny because one of the things in here is like a spin-off of a story in here that I think is the only one that I didn't love, which is funny because I'm pretty sure I picked up this originally 4 years ago, because of Mari, who used to be on Twitter as like Cyborg Mari, somebody who I followed on Twitter for so long, and was the reason I think that I knew about this to begin with. And it's all about cyborgs, which, if you know me, you know isn't like my preferred sci-fi focus. But I read like the companion in here and loved it, and then went back to this one and loved it too. So that's an interesting progression in my reading. More cyborgs, I guess, is what I need. And it was funny because I forgot all my ratings, so it's a good thing that I had written them down in here. But all of my favorite ones in here are the ones that like the authors also wrote something in here and ended up being my favorites in here. So there's definitely some authors that I need to expand upon in my reading life. Do you want to know my favorites? I don't know. Not that you should only pick this up and read my favorite ones, but my favorite ones were History of the New World by Adam Garnett Jones, who is an author I've read before. Also, the one by Gabriel Castillo Calderon. I cannot pronounce this. Interestingly, Darcy Little Badgers wasn't my favorite, but that's okay. And then, yeah, Seed Children was a 5. And the last one, Eloise by David A. Robertson, was a favorite. Moving on, the first novels that I completed this month I read for a vlog, and that was House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland, and then Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. And this was a 5-star prediction from me, this was a 5-star prediction from you, and this ended up being 3 stars, and this one was 4 stars. I have a very mixed like history with YA horror, speculative, like spooky stuff. This one was highly anticipated by me, and the atmosphere completely met my expectations. It was like ominous and strange and uncomfortable, and it really got dark, which I appreciate. It's got like fairy tale, horror, urban fantasy, speculative, fabulism. I don't know what genre to place this in properly. Vibes. It's like these girls, they're sisters, and they vanished when they were younger, and they came back months later, and then like they were just very strange people, creatures, and then the plot just kind of recycles itself for 300 pages of this like story of one of the sisters going missing and the other one's finding her, and then the other one goes missing and then they're finding her, and then someone goes missing and then they're finding her. So the descriptions themselves were really compelling, but the writing and the plotting wasn't perfect for me. This conceptually is a 5-star. There's like some reveals that I find just perfection, but I don't think that the book knew what to do with all the pages in between, like the concept and then the reveal. So I could see myself picking up from this author again, because I am intrigued but not super impressed. And then with this one, it was a 4-star, equally atmosphere, like strange and ominous and dark, but the plot itself was great. Why did I give this a 4 instead of a 5? I can't recall now. But in this one, again, we have missing sister, and we have like a ghost story. So we're following a character who's trying to find her sister. She's trying to find her sister? She's trying to find her sister, but there's also this story of Lucy Gallows, who's this ghost. It's like an urban legend, and it's told in a mixed media format with interviews and articles and DMs, and it's like Blair Witch Project vibes as we follow this group of friends. I think that's what made it strong for me, was it is a group of friends instead of siblings. Maybe I just prefer that dynamic. I don't know. I don't need to be relating these together because I read them in a video together. I am. But the friendship dynamic was super interesting, and as they're going through these like dark doorways and forests and experiences, it's like Wayward Children but darker. There are these rules that this dark road path has for them, and it tries to like trick them, and it's really hard to explain, but I thought it was really good. Not a 5-star, apparently. I also read these 5. I reread them in a vlog where I was rereading my questionable favorites. It was an interesting experience. So my updated ratings for all of these, I guess, you can go watch the vlog and see like my thoughts as I progress through the books, but I'm trying to remember where I started. I think I started with Hopeless. Originally a 4-star, I ended up giving it a 2. It's about a girl and a boy and their love story, but it's also about a lot of trauma and reveals that on the second read were like very jarring to me. I don't know, I just don't find this a very well written book, and I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of 23-year-old me, and like, did I think that this was well written? Did I think the dialogue was good? Because it's not. I also read The Duff by Cody Keplinger, which I originally gave a 4.5 star, I think, and I bumped it down to a 3. Again, it's just like the writing is not what I remember. The way that the characters behave is authentic, I feel, and I like what this book talked about, but it just like wasn't impressive. It's not about not liking the characters, because like, yeah, upon the second read I didn't like how the characters interacted, I didn't like things they had to say, but that doesn't make it a bad book for me. It's just the way that it's written and how I felt reading it this time around it was more of a 3. The biggest letdown, I feel like, isn't actually hopeless, but it was This Is Where I Leave You by Jonathan Tropper. Objectively, like, I can't say this is a bad book. I just really hated being in the mind of this character, who's just this like misogynistic, rude guy. It's meant to come across like he's funny and that these moments are comedic, and when I originally read it, I did feel that way. But this time around, I don't know what happened. Like, don't reread your questionable favorite books. It was a bad decision. There was just no character arc for him that I felt made sense or made me enjoy the experience of reading this. And I'm not telling you what they're about. This is about a girl who's a designated ugly fat friend. Guy is mean to her, but then they hook up and they just keep it a secret. This Is Where I Leave You is about a group of siblings who come together to sit Shiva after their father passes, and all of their like interpersonal drama with each other and their partners, everything comes to light. There are secrets, there are reveals, and like some things were interesting. Like, I gave it a 2. You know, it's not something I detest or I have really hard feelings about. I was just really questioning my previous taste in books. Like, that's all it is. Then I read Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This was originally a 4.5 star, and I kept my rating of all of the books. This is the only one that was solid, which is pretty unexpected apparently based on my comment section. Like, no doubt this is not something that I would pick up nowadays. It's about a girl named Tate, and she moves into an apartment complex, and there's a guy named Miles in it, and they have like a purely sexual relationship because Miles wants to keep his past the past and doesn't want a future with her. But it's also written in 2 different perspectives because we're reading from Tate current day, and then we're also reading from Miles in the past and him falling in love with another girl. And I found it just as impactful as I did the first time. I thought it was really fun, and I thought it was really sad, and I had a good time. And then lastly, I read Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma. This one didn't change in rating too much, but it went from a 5 to a 4. I'm spoiling that entire vlog, so hopefully you already watched it. But I'm glad that I still enjoyed it because I feel like there's a lot of assumptions about not even the book, but readers of the book. And I'm glad that I got to talk about that a little more in the vlog and how I feel about it. I wasn't as emotionally impacted the second time around, but I still like fell in love with the writing, fell in love with the characters, was like super overwhelmed by the situation that these children, teenagers are in. They're beginning a relationship with each other and their brother and sister. It is very graphic. It really goes there, and this is not going to be a book for everyone. In fact, like I've said it before, I'll say it over and over again, I don't recommend this to anyone. Clearly it has a subject matter that people don't enjoy, but like you're not supposed to enjoy this relationship. Ugh, I can't talk about it anymore. But I think that book knows what it's trying to say, and I think it does it well. Next up is the Literally Dead Book Club pick of the month, They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. I haven't planned out the live show for this yet, which I need to get around to, but this really not surprised me, but it's not one of those books that I've heard a ton of passion for. I've just heard like only good things about it, and I concur that it's a 4-star. It's not a 5-star that I'm going to scream from the rooftops for everyone to read, and it's like one of my most recommended thrillers of all time, but it's a really solid 4, and I'm super looking forward to the live show so I can discuss certain things. And I think this was a really good pick because it is just well loved, like broadly appreciated. I think most people who read this are just like, yeah, that was a really solid thriller. And I feel like we need that more in the book club, because sometimes I pick some really just weird stuff or polarizing stuff. So if you're still interested in reading this before the live show, I would definitely encourage you to pick it up because I think it's solid. And it falls into that trend that I think is really prevalent in thrillers right now, that's following professors and like dark things happening to them or around them or that they are creating. So this one has Dexter energy. We're following a professor named Scarlett who works at Gorman University, and basically every year she like kills a man who deserves it on campus. And at this point she's gotten a little bit messy with it. Things don't go as planned, etc. And then we're also following a Gorman student named Carly, and she too is having her own like revenge fantasy because she has this roommate who has been assaulted and she wants to make him pay. A lot goes down. It's really fast paced. I read this so fast. It's one of the most just like engaging, like easy to pick up and get back into thrillers that I've read in a while. The audiobook is fantastic if you want to pick it up. It's got dual narrators, which is appreciated. And it was really fun. As much as like a book about wanting to murder people can be a good time, like it was fun. There were some unexpected moments. I'm excited to fully spoil it for everyone, so please read it. And then lastly, I read Butterfly in the Wind by Lakshmi Persad, and this is going to be in an upcoming vlog, so I definitely don't want to talk about it too much, so you'll still tune into that. But this is a fictionalized autobiography, which I know that I've read before, but I don't think I fully acknowledged like what that meant. So at the beginning I was very confused because we were following a character named Kamala, and I was like, is that a nickname? Because like that doesn't even make sense. But what I've realized is that it's like a story of this woman's life. It gives a vivid and inward picture of a Caribbean Indian community, and I think like it's a fictional story, but it's been heavily influenced by the author's life. Or maybe fictionalized autobiography just means like it's meant to read as an autobiography, but it's just not real. And maybe it has nothing to do with the author's experience. I still don't know. Regardless, I thought it was wonderful. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was almost perfect. I didn't know going in that it was going to be written in like vignettes, which is something that I always appreciate, so I'm so glad that that happened. I guess that is kind of like typical for memoir or autobiography style things, like there's just like little stories, but the pacing was just so great because some of them linked directly to each other, like linear stories, and then some of them were just like, here's an experience just with this person, and then we never even like learn more of that situation. There were a lot of things that were covered in here, community and like different communities that this character interacts with, different like cultures and religions. I think my favorite part of this was the experiences and also the commentary on religion and her experiences at this Catholic school. Those were my favorite sections, and the things that she learned and the things that she challenged and the ways that people interpreted her and her religion. I also love nonfiction that references other, not even necessarily nonfiction, but like I do love that, but just like stories that reference other stories. I don't know why, but anytime I read a book that talks about the impact that a story had on a character, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that also is one of my favorite stories. So this one, I tabbed a couple times that happened, but it talked about 1001 Nights, which is a really well-known story, but just like there's something that makes you relate to a book when the characters are impacted by art the same way that you have been. I just thought it was extremely well told, and I had a very enjoyable time experiencing this. So that is the 11 things that I read in the month of May. Let me know if you've read any of these or you're going to, or anything that you read in May. Are you also like me and you were lacking in like, I feel like I talked about this a couple months ago, like passion for books? I've gone in and out of this over the last like year, but there are some months where I just feel like I don't get impacted by books on like a super deep level. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm blabbering. I will see you later, probably tomorrow, with my TBR that I filmed a very long time ago, I think. Okay, bye.